Hey there, folks. Happy Sunday to you. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Coming at you with this week's stocks to watch for next week. Uh, Happy Mother's Day to all of you fantastic mothers out there. I hope you have an absolutely, totally awesome, wonderful day. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm just going to do a quick list. If you watch my market wrap video, you know that I'm still in the fairly bearish camp. But we never know what could happen. We could go into squeeze mode um, because there is such a big short position. Let's not go in with any preconceived notions of what may happen next week. But I'm still relatively bearish. However, I do have a list of stocks to watch for next week. So let's take a look at them real quick. Oh, real quickly. So specialty chemicals is an area that I saw quite a few names that had either had a nice little pop or uh, some nice looking setups in that space, in the specialty chemical space. FOE, had a nice little pop, flirting with a $14 roll. Maybe you get a red to green move continuation on that. CC is another one that is consolidating. Looks as though it may want to head higher. If it could take out 1050, you get a nice little spike possibly in CC. OLN is another one. And there were a few of them that actually look like they're consolidating. The only thing I would say about this sector, though, and I really didn't have any of these on my list, but if oil does roll over or weaken, it's likely going to potentially pull these back with it. So it's worth keeping an eye on that sector. I wouldn't go chasing anything and pay attention to what oil does. But let's go ahead and get started with the list of stocks to watch for next week. This MHGC, which is Morgan's Hotel Group, actually had a pretty good little pop on Friday, and I think they report earnings Monday. So this could be a pre-earnings pop that gets faded after the earnings come out if they disappoint, or it could be a pre-earnings pop because somebody knows something that we don't, and maybe they report better than expected earnings, and you get a nice little move in this Morgan Hotel Group. I don't know if they report before or after the close, but it's worth having on the radar for a potential $2 roll. And if it can take out two, there, I think potentially it could come up and test the 200-day moving average right here, and also coincide with some form of price support, right? So around $3 or so, big move from where it currently sits. ATW, one of the oil and gas names. There were some oil and gas names that actually look pretty good. I have a couple of them in here. This ATW had a nice little pop on Friday. It looks like it potentially could come up and test around 1260, test that 200-day moving average, or it might come up and just test 12. But maybe a potential red to green move, right? Good volume on a nice break. CEO, they have earnings behind them. They just reported earnings. I believe that's why this actually got a little pop on Friday. So maybe a red to green move and potential continuation. It could actually blow past that 200-day moving average and come up and test this long-term trend line here. So worth keeping an eye on ATW. YELP, which has been, beaten up pretty darn good over this last year and a half or so. And then, it had a pretty extreme move, then had a nice little bounce, consolidated, and has broken out of that consolidation off of good earnings. Uh, Over the 200-day moving average, closed nearly at the high of the day, right at an area of, look at that, support, resistance, right? Got a gap to fill on the daily up to potentially $30 or so, $31. So I think this Yelp, you could get a continuation after those earnings that were reported on Friday. Let me just see something here real quick because I didn't see this. Okay, that looks like it was just a grant or an award or something like that. So anyway, it has broken this long-term trend line. It's coming up into an area of price resistance. Maybe we get a pullback. Maybe we consolidate here. for the first couple of days of the week, and then you get a continuation. But I think it's definitely worth having YELP on your radar. Sierra Wireless, same thing, had a really nice pop. Look where it closed. Closed right at the 200-day moving average, right at some price resistance. Good volume on the move. Maybe you get a red to green move. What I was looking at potentially is if you could get a pullback to around 1680, 1630, somewhere in that range, get it there, because it was a good earnings report, and I believe they also raised guidance. So this one could get some follow through after breaking this long-term trend. GV, another earnings winner. Actually closed nearly at the high of the day, coming up into some resistance here. Let's just take a look real quick at the weekly. I don't know if this is the one that had got a little W pattern going on, maybe a double bottom over there. It looks like it bounced off of one. I mean, it's a little extended. That's the only thing I have an issue with on this one, but it was a good earnings report. They do have a good backlog. It's got this gap to fill. Ideally, where would I want to get involved in GV? Actually, if I could get it on a pullback to like $2 or 205, somewhere in that area, I might get interested to take it for a swing. I mean, that's pretty good volume. Look, it could just go ahead and take out this 245 area. There is a gap to fill. It looks like somewhere around 260 or so. But this would be chasing. I kind of feel like this would be chasing. But it's still worth having on the radar if you can get some kind of a pullback. I think 2 would be a really good place to get that, but worth keeping an eye on GV. Let me go back to the, actually, we'll go here. What was I looking for? I know what I was looking at. Yeah, piercing the upper Bollinger Band. It would be difficult to take this one up here. But maybe on a pullback, close that gap, or even if it just consolidates, right? Consolidates, works its way back into the Bollinger Band, and then flags out a bit for another move. But that's somewhat compelling. Let me go back to the other chart, a little cleaner here. CVGI. So full disclosure, I still have a position in CVGI. I got involved with it when it was back in the 228 area, and then sold out of it on a pop and scaled out, and then now I've got just some like 400 shares left of the stock. But they reported better than expected earnings as well. There's been a lot of insider buying between $2.26, $2.67. It tried to take out this trend line on Friday, wound up closing back below it, but looking for a potential continuation of that breakout in CVGI. Probably more of a swing trade than a day trade. EVDY, nice little move on Friday, flirting with the $6 roll. Potential flat top breakout. If it can take out this area with some conviction and some volume, I think potentially we can come up and test that 200-day moving average somewhere around $7 or so. So watch EVDY for potential continuation. CTRL was another earnings winner. Had a big pop and then faded, right? Now it's closed actually below $8. So what I'm kind of looking for on this one is it would potentially pull back to the $7.62 area, maybe even come all the way back and fill the gap down to $7.35, and then you get a bounce and move higher. Okay, over the 200-day moving average. Maybe it'll just come back and pull and test the 200-day moving average around 777. That's a good number. But I think this CTRL is worth having on the radar. It's in the right segment. I think they have a lot to do in the Internet of Things space. So look for a potential continuation. It's a relatively new issue as well. I think they just did an IPO. Well, it's not that new. But potentially looking for some kind of continuation move in this CTRL. ECR, another oil and gas name. You know, this one is trading below book value, and there's a lot of them in the space that are trading below book. They just reported earnings. You know, it's flirting. To me, it looks like we could potentially get a $3 test and roll. You know, it's had a nice little run. Again, if oil rolls over, this would probably follow. It actually tried to pop on Friday. It might need a little bit more time to consolidate, but worth keeping an eye on this ECR. KOPN. So they reported earnings, had a little pop, coming up into this little trend line here. You know, it's really getting near 52-week, not even 52 weeks. It's getting close to all-time lows. Let me take a look on this, go back on the weekly. Been watching this company for a long, long time. They have zero debt. They got about 90 million in the bank, and I think book value on them is somewhere around $1.60 something a share. It's compelling from a swing trade opportunity, or even starting to build a long-term hold position in the stock. The technology is really pretty fantastic. They got this little thing, Whisper controller or something like that. Virtual reality, you know, headsets, helmets for the Air Force, all kinds of stuff that they're involved in. And I love the fact that they have zero debt and so much cash on the books. And you can see back in 2009, it did get down to about $1.50 or so. So, you know, it's really close to all-time lows. And I think your risk reward is somewhat compelling in this one for a longer-term hold if you've got the patience to wait it out. IMMU tried to pop on Friday. Look, we know that biotech space is a little scary right now, but there's a pretty big short position in this, 74 million shares in the float. Has had a nice little run, consolidating, kind of doing a little pennant, or a little, you know, looks like you're putting in a little pennant. Tried to break out, see if maybe it does break out over this trend line next week. Kind of got a weird little cup with handle thing going on. Look where, so it actually filled the gap. That's what we did here. We look at that. It filled the gap. There's some support, which is going to be resistance at this level. So maybe it needs to consolidate a bit more before it tries to take that out. But not a bad look on IMMU. EVDY, they reported earnings. You know, I've been watching this one forever, literally forever. Well, maybe not forever, but I've been watching it a long time. There's been, so Dr. Frost is involved in this one. You know, OPK is another one that, you know, he's bought a significant amount of shares. He's continually buying, a lot of buying activity going around the $5 mark. And it's about where we are right now. Earnings are already behind it. You know, I think it's a pretty compelling little company, and it appears to be some support from insiders down in this $4.35 to $5 area. So I am compelled to potentially take a swing position in EVDY. ATRS, I actually played this one for the dollar roll. It did the dollar roll. It's pulling back. It's in the, if I'm not mistaken, oh yeah, medical space. So they just had some news a little while back. Approved for rheumatoid arthritis injection. Nice little pop. There was an insider buy, 72 to 77 cents. So, you know, actually what I'm kind of looking for is if we break the trend line and go to take out one, I might get involved in it if there's some serious volume behind the move. If it breaks down below 86 cents again, gets down into the 70s, I probably would look to get involved in some form of a lotto type position along with the insiders. MITK, you know, had tremendous earnings, had a big pop. It's been flagging out right around $8 as it absorbs that earnings report. The only thing I do not like about MITK is there is a continual stream of insider selling, it seems like, and not a whole lot of insider buying, and that always irritates me. But, you know, for an 8 break, for a day trade, some volume behind it, I may look to take it for a little flag break. BZH. So, you know, I missed this one way back here when I wanted to get it at $6.59 or so in that area. There's been some insider buying in this one, 725, and then there was some insider buying announced. Oh, here it is right here. Insider buying that was announced last week, 30,000 shares at $7.25. Another 25,000 shares at $7.25. So, you know, back to getting involved where the insiders are buying, and it's had a pretty sharp little sell-off here. If the Fed is going to be on the sidelines through the summer, probably would be okay for the home builders, I would imagine. But really, I would like to start building a position in BZH, actually right back at about $6.65 if possible. SSNI, I have played this stock several times in the past, and they are reporting earnings on Monday or Tuesday, I believe. Which one of them? Monday or Tuesday? Well, Monday or Tuesday they're reporting. I think it might be Monday after the close. And their last few earnings reports have been good, and the stock has had a nice little pop off the earnings report, and then it actually winds up fading a little bit. But I'm looking, you know, it basically bounced right off the 200-day moving average on Friday. See if the earnings come in strong and it takes out that trend line, maybe goes back up and tests in the $15 range. It's probably more of a swing than a day trade. ARTX, I actually played this one as well, but am completely out of it. They report earnings. They report earnings tomorrow morning. So, you know, it had a nice little run. It's been pulling back. I think it had this pop off of you know, a contract announcement, and you know, we'll see what earnings are. If earnings are good, they may take out this trend line and go back up and test, you know, the 415 area. If earnings suck, you know, or disappoint, it may pull back to 325 and then maybe even come back all the way down to this $2.88. There's been some insider buying at $2.43. So, you know, if it pulled back to 288, I may look to get involved with a potential swing. Or if it takes out this trend line, I may look to play it for a day trade on a break to go up and test 4, potentially have a 4 roll. And then the last stock that I have for tomorrow is CLF. You know, look, it reported decent earnings, or surprised. I should say, they were surprised with the earnings that they reported. Had a big old pop. You know, had a gap. It's filled that gap, come nearly all the way back down. And what I'm looking at is this area of potential price support. So this could be an area that we see a bounce in this CLF. Really, I would be only looking at that for a day trade. And that's it, folks. That's all I've got on my list this week. You know, there's going to be some earnings coming out all week. As a matter of fact, let me pull that up. Okay, sorry about that. I finally figured it out. So look, we got Solar City, OPCO, OPK, JD.com, Tyson. You know, if Tyson reports a good number, a good sympathy trade could be PPC. Inovio reports. Allergan. No, I mean, we've got some pretty decent earnings report. We've got WWE. A lot of retail we talked about in the market, the weekly market wrap. So we've got some interesting earnings coming out. I'm sure they will, some of those will present some decent trade opportunities. And then let's go ahead and take a look at the economic calendar for next week. Not a tremendous amount of significant data coming out. JOLTS, Labor Department's job openings, labor turnover survey, that could be interesting. We've got the petroleum report on Wednesday. Like always, we've got jobless claims, retail sales on Friday, and PPI, business inventories, consumer sentiment. So those could be some things that impact the market next week. Okay? So remember, don't overcommit. Keep your position sizing right for this type of market. We could just continue to chop around. So, size your trades accordingly. Okay, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day. Have a fantastic time with the family, with mom, and I will see you all next week.